All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is 1:30 p.m. in New York City and 7:30 p.m. in Tuscany, Italy. I'm Sam Kimball from Crush Wine Experiences, formerly New York Wine Events. Thank you for joining us for virtual day trip to wine country. We are here for some great Tuscan wines, particularly Chianti Classico, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what that exactly means, Chianti Classico. As many of you know, Tuscany is home to the Chianti wine region, and the Chianti Classico DOCG, or the official designation for Chianti Classico, is the heartland is in Tuscany. And Chianti Classico as an area is the traditional and longest established viticultural area within the Chianti region. A typical Chianti Classico wine, as pretty much all of you probably know, is a ruby red Sangiovese wine with aromas of violets and cherries and a hint of earthy spice. And where we're going today is a special place, very, very special place in Tuscany, in the Chianti Classico area. We're going to a small town called Volpaia, and it has 30 residents, 30 people living there. Our theme for the session is not only great Italian wine and great Chianti Classico and Tuscan wine, but it's also sustainable and natural wines, starting with the agriculture at the winery. The background of Castello di Volpaia, which is the name of the winery, starts 800 plus years ago when the Volpaia, the winery, was founded. So this is an amazing place, tremendous amount of history. Welcome everyone. Great to see people from New York City, from Lakewood, Washington, Sonoma County, and more. It is wonderful to have you join us on a Wine Thursday. Please ask us any questions and make any comments that you have in Zoom in the chat window, and we'll answer those questions as we go. We have two amazing Italian guest speakers with us who will be with us for the whole session. And if you would, absolutely hit the chat right now and tell us where you are tuning in from. We'd love to see that. So we're traveling virtually to Tuscany today. And let's take a look at the map, and we're going to see a couple of other maps and things later. But let's just take a look at the map, generally where we're headed in Italy. You can see the red map pin behind me. That is where the little town of Volpaia is, an amazing place. I will show you, this is an aerial shot, an aerial view. You can see over my shoulder on the top of that hill is this beautiful town that dates back, to the 11th century. There's another picture of it. And we'll show more later, but that's where we're going in Italy. An amazing place. And really since 1172, the Volpaia great Chianti Classicos have been produced at the winery using organic farming. They've had the honor in recent years of being named to the 3 best wines in the world by the Wine Spectator. So Volpaia, the winery and the village, is known throughout the world for the beauty of its cellars, hidden in the walls, and the ancient fortified village that it resides in. And also what's interesting about Volpaia, they have villas and apartments and rooms that they rent. So there's actually a whole hospitality sector of what happens in the little village. They organize cooking classes and tastings for wine. So you got to come out at some point and join us. We're actually going, Crush Wine Experiences is going to Tuscany next April with a group of Americans that we're taking. And we're going to be making reservations available soon. And Volpaia is going to be on the itinerary. It's a magical and historic place. But without further ado, I would like to introduce one of our guests, Federica Mascheroni-Stianti. She's the daughter of the owner of Volpaia, and she's also the export manager. Federica, it is great having you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Ciao a tutti. Thank you very much, Sam, for the introduction, and thank you really for the invitation, and to all these friends to listen to me and to listen to the story of my family winery.
It's great to have you with us, and thank you for doing this. I know it's late in the day there, 7:30 in the evening, or almost 7:40. So thank you for that. I would also like to introduce our other guest host today, Marco Scaglione, who is a tour guide and hospitality professional based in Italy. And he is very much involved with our Crush Wine Experiences Italian tours. So welcome, Marco. Thank you also for joining us late in the day.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sam, for this opportunity. You see a beautiful picture of Florence behind me. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Tuscany in a few minutes, even though right now I'm in northern Italy. I don't live in Florence, but I know Tuscany very well because as a tour guide, that's where I spent a lot of time in the past 14 years.
Well, and I can see actually, Marco, we have a couple of people who joined us who are going on the live stream on Zoom now, who are actually coming to Piemonte, to Piedmont with us in the fall. So I want to give a shout out to Jackie and Maria because they've been involved with the Piedmont trip. This is going to be another fantastic experience with you and in Tuscany, similar to what we're doing in northern Italy and Piedmont. So Federica, we will be visiting Volpaia next April as part of our Tuscany tour. Can you tell us a bit about the winery and its history and the town of Volpaia?
You know, I'm Italian. I have to keep my time in 10 minutes, and I will try to do all my best. Because as always, I talk too much, especially when I want to talk about my family and my wine estate. So now I'm in Volpaia. So this is not the fake background, actually. You know, everybody has a picture, but this one is one tapestry that is in the house and in the winery. So if you don't mind, I put in the background a video so you can have an idea of what it is Volpaia.
That's great. Share your screen. That'd be amazing.
Yes. So the video will start in the background. In the front of me. And so I bring you inside Volpaia, in this little village, 12 center, as you mentioned, where inside you have all the different activities of Volpaia. So when you get there, you feel you are in the 12th century. Then you start to open the different doors and you understand what it is inside these old buildings. So the stainless steel pipeline, the underground, the aging cellar for the timing and the vinification of the wine, but different buildings. So we need like a stainless steel pipeline that connect each single building. So when you get to Volpaia, you don't only see a winery and taste the wines, but at the same time, you almost walk on top of the wine, because if you're in a certain specific moment, the wine is moved from one building to the other one. Here, this lady is the big boss. That one is my mother, is the one that started all the history of Volpaia, because actually has been started by my grandfather. So Volpaia goes back in 1172, but my family is inside Volpaia since the 1966. Started from my grandfather, then my mother followed his steps, or maybe we can say she made the biggest work of Volpaia with my father. And now is my brother and I, Nicolò and me, Federica, that's trying to follow the step of a big personality, how it is the personality of my mother. So Volpaia, it's very high elevated. It's over 600 meters, so it means 1,800 feet above the sea level. And this makes a big difference inside the bottle of the wine. So we make obviously mainly Sangiovese wine. So what we will talk after in the four wines that we have, we will talk about the Sangiovese grape, that is the heart of the Chianti Classico. But we have to understand better also about Chianti Classico. So as Sam mentioned, it's this area, geographic area, located between Florence and Siena, so Firenze and Siena, two very important cities that they were not really friendly one to each other, but very important cities known really all over the world for the wine. They were not very friendly, and so they had to find a solution in a certain moment to make it like a separation, a line up to separate the two lands. So in a certain moment, you know, the Chianti Classico symbol, it is a black rooster. So you can find the black rooster in all the Chianti Classico bottles. And that black rooster, it is the symbol because the Florentine and the Sienese wanted to create a line between the two areas. And so they said, okay, we don't have a way to call each other and to say, okay, I start my horse driver from one village to the other. The only way was to, I stopped this one. The only way was to have the alarm clock of that time. It was the bell of a rooster. So the Florentine chose the black rooster and the Sienese chose the white rooster. But the Florentine keep their Gallo Nero very hidden in a very dark place. And so he decided to sing much, much earlier than the other one that has been treated in a very carefully way. So this meant that the horse driver of the Florentine were able to run much earlier and got much more land compared to the one from Siena. And this is the reason why now the symbol of the Chianti Classico is the black rooster. And so you can find all over the bottles of the Chianti Classico wines.
So the only time that you know for sure that it is Chianti Classico is when you see the black rooster, yeah?
Exactly. Anyhow, is a flight, is a bird. So you can find here, and somebody has also here. So fly inside the bottle, but it has to stay on the bottle. So you can find on the back label, or you can find here in the neck. Most of the people have up here in the neck of the bottle. But you need that one to be identified as a Chianti Classico producer. And Volpaia comes specifically from a little village called Radda, that is one of the oldest, and we can say the heart of the Chianti Classico area. And where we have a very sandy and stony soil. You saw the stones of the buildings that you saw before. That stones are the one that you will see, you will feel after inside the bottle. And in our what we want to do in our wines is to, as Sam mentioned, we want to give you the healthiest fruit as possible. So for us, it's important to be organic. So actually, we are organic since a long time. Made the certification started in the 2000, but we were organic since before. Then got the certification in the 2003, but is incredible to hear now, we started to write on the label only from the 2010. This because now everybody thinks about organic, but in the past, organic was meaning something like, oh, it means that this one is a bit smelly or is not perfect. So at the beginning, we had to fight to let the people understand what was meaning organic. And only in a second moment, people has understood that organic was meaning good and healthy wine. So now finally, we write in the back of the label. And so we have the green label in the back. We write all in the back to keep the face of the bottle how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a lot of in the US, there's a lot of interest in natural and also organic wines. A lot.
Luckily.
Yeah.
luckily, it's this is you know, sometimes wine is in the fashion. So people of wine or the still life, anyhow, the normal life has to follow the fashion. So I'm very happy that finally the fashion of this moment, it is organic and not anymore something different. So everybody is looking to respect the environment as much as possible. This is the reason why we keep it the village how it is. So when you arrive in Volpaia, you feel like you are in the 12th century, and only in a second moment you realize where the winery it is located. And so you start to open the different doors and you find the different location. This is because we want to have a life inside the village. So instead of building a new winery, we keep it everything inside the village. Actually, even the people that works for us lives with us. It's kind. Do you think we can control them every day? So it's no. Anyhow, it's a good point for people to don't have to go back and forth from the city to the village to Volpaia, because anyhow we are like 45 minutes, 1 hour from Florence and from Siena. So like this, people can live and can even understand more the philosophy of the village, and became a small community. As Sam mentioned, we are 30 people resident. So very small community.
We have a question, Federica. Is the village and the winery and the hotel and the restaurant, is it all one? Is it all under one sort of ownership or under one roof? The village plus the hotel, the winery. It's not a hotel, it's an agriturismo, and the restaurant. Is it all one thing, or are there other businesses independent inside of the village?
So we don't own the full village. It's more than enough that we have 2/3 of that one.
Okay.
So there are a few other owners inside, owners of a house, or they even have other restaurants. So actually, somebody have like rooms, apartments that they rent inside the village. So we have our agriturismo, as you said, is different than a hotel. So a very cozy place where you don't have a reception full time, but you have a place where you feel and you have to feel at home, like in your house. Then we have a restaurant, we have a forno, a bakery, a wine shop. But inside the village, you have other two options of the other two restaurants. So 30 people, but a lot of options inside the village.
That's so interesting. Very, very, very intriguing. So yeah, that's great. So is there more that you can share sort of about the experience of being visiting Volpaia? I know, and Marco's going to talk a little bit about our itinerary in April, but are there any other things that we should know about coming to Volpaia and the experience of not just the winery, but the place?
It's like you mentioned before that we do even a cooking class. So that usually it's managed by my mother. She started her life when she got married. She moved with my father, and she started bringing a recipe, reading the recipe carefully. And so the recipe is for 4. I need to do the food for 2. So the recipe say 3 eggs. I need to divide in the middle of egg. So she started thinking to divide a egg in the middle, a raw egg. And now she can cook for anybody. So we come in the house with 10 people. She can make a dinner in 5 minutes with nothing. So she can do even cooking classes. So when you are here in Volpaia, you can do even a cooking class. So it became like an experience to have the real food and the real ingredients that is the base of the food of Tuscany. So don't put too much sauce and keep the food as it is in the wine. Keep the fruits, keep the food, the flavor of the tomatoes like that.
No, so that's great. That's great to know. Well, there's so much to learn about Volpaia, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it, and also visiting in April with the group. Marco, can you give us a sort of a general overview of Tuscany, the region, the culture, and why it's so great for food and wine enthusiasts like us to visit?
Yes, Tuscany is one of the most popular regions of Italy. In terms of wines, there are many wines that are very well known in Tuscany. For sure, Chianti Classico that Federica produces is probably the most popular and the most exported wine from Italy to the US. But on our tour, we're also going to visit three other wine regions. We are going to southern Tuscany, almost at the border with Umbria, where they produce the second most important wine of Tuscany and one of the most important red wines of Italy, which is Brunello di Montalcino, and as well as the Montepulciano. So these wines are made with Sangiovese grapes, but of course they come from different parts of Tuscany, so the soil is different and the results are also different. And for those of you who like white wines, we also going to visit kind of in the middle between Florence and Siena. There is one of my favorite places in Tuscany, which is a tongue twister town, San Gimignano. I always tease my guests, the tour, trying to pronounce it right. You can also say San Parmigiano if it helps you a
Some
little.
Parmigiano, yeah.
Anyway, San Gimignano, besides being a beautiful medieval town, it looks like the back of a movie set, really. It is actually known for one of the few white wines of Tuscany, which is called Vernaccia. So we also go in there. As far as food, Tuscany is known for the farmers' food. So they use their ingredients, whatever is seasonal, vegetable. They are, of course, known for one of the best meat of Italy called chianina. In Florence, they have this big T-bone steak, which is delicious. And much, much else. I mean, the pasta, of course, the wild boar sauce, and on and on. But all of these rustic and countryside atmosphere is combined with one of the largest art collection that we have in Italy, and that is in Florence. Florence is like an open air museum. And so even if, of course, your audience, Sam, is definitely looking for wine experiences, but we also wanted to keep some time in Florence. We will have a local guide and experience some of this beauty, the Renaissance, the art that is just around the city. And for guests who are coming a day earlier, there will be also the opportunity to join a private guided tour of the famous David by Michelangelo. So Tuscany is beautiful because all of that together, the art, the countryside, the food, the wine, and of course the people.
No, that's great. We have a question about you mentioned a white wine, a special one that is particularly common and wonderful. How's it spelled? Can you put it in the chat, Marco?
Yes, I just put this Vernaccia. Somebody wrote Vernazza, which sounds very similar. Vernazza is one of the towns of the Cinque Terre, so that's another part of Italy, but it sounds very similar. The wine, which is also the name of the grape, is Vernaccia from San Gimignano.
It took me the first time I tried to say San Gimignano, I had to practice.
Marco, it's a tongue twister.
Can you share your screen and show us a little bit on the map of just generally where we're going in April? Because I think it's is of interest to the audience.
Absolutely, we are. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just using Google Maps and we can zoom in and out. Here you can see Florence. This is where the tour will start, the last week of April. So on April 24th, which is a Sunday, everybody will gather in Florence. There's an airport, so you can fly to Florence, Some other people like to arrive early, maybe in Rome or Milan, and then they come to Florence by train. In Florence, we're gonna spend 3 nights. And then I zoom in a little bit, just south of Florence. This is the area of Chianti, so Federica, Volpaia, and they are all in this area. You see Grave in Chianti, Strada in Chianti. Now I don't see a Radda, but it should be very close, right, Federica?
Below. You have to
A
go a
little.
bit down, and you see next to Google, and you see Volpaia.
Yeah, I see it. Yep, at the bottom of the screen. There it is.
Okay. Okay, so anyway, after the 3 nights in Florence, let me zoom out a little bit so you have a full understanding of our tour. There you go. So Florence, then we travel. There will be 1 transfer day. We will stop in the area of San Gimignano. For the day, we have 2 beautiful farms to visit. One is a cheesemaker. They also have organic vegetables. They make their own preserves. And then in the afternoon, we drink wine, the Vernaccia wine that I was just talking about. And anyway, that night, we keep driving, and finally that night we will arrive in Pienza. Can you see that at the bottom of the screen?
Yep.
So this is Pienza, where we're gonna spend the other 3 nights of the tour. So both hotels in Florence and in Pienza are in a town center, so people can just walk after dinner and enjoy taking the Italian lifestyle. So from Pienza, we will take day trips. So one day, of course, we go to Siena, a must in Tuscany. And then Brunello di Montalcino, Montepulciano, all these wines are all around Pienza. You see Montalcino here and Montepulciano. So I think this is a tour that is great for first-timers, people that never been to Tuscany, because you get to see the big highlights, the must-see, but also for people that have been here before. If it is your second or third time to Tuscany, trust me, you won't be disappointed, because we go to many offbeat places, farms, wine producers that maybe you won't find on your own. And I take a little credit because of my experience as a tour guide. I also know some of the best tour guides in Florence and in Siena. So trust me that the tours that we're gonna do are nothing like the ordinary. So we really go behind the scenes. So even if you've been here before, you won't be disappointed.
That's something that I'm glad you mentioned, Marco, because in my experience going around Italy with you and your team, it's not like anything if you've been to Italy before, that's great, but there's a level of insider access that you bring and that your team brings that is special and different. So well, that's great. Well, Marco, thank you for that overview. I think what we want to do is if anybody has any questions, put them in the chat. And at the same time, Federica, I think let's talk about the wines that we're tasting today. I think we have 4 wines. All of them, 3 of them are Chianti Classico, and one of them is a super Tuscan. So why don't we get started with that? I'm going to show. I'm going to put up on my screen the wines. And we'll get started. And the first one is your most sort of entry level Chianti Classico. It's called the Volpaia Chianti Classico, and I'm gonna share it, the image on my screen. But this one is, in terms of if you buy it from volpaia.com, it's relatively affordable. It's not very expensive, but it's very good. Tell us a little bit about the tasting notes for this wine, and what is your favorite food to combine with this wine?
So if we have to talk about wine, if you don't mind, it's time for me of aperitivo. You know, it's 7:30 in Italy. We do an aperitivo before we start the dinner.
Of course.
So what we have in the glass, as you mentioned before, the classic flavor of Chianti Classico should be, especially for the younger Chianti Classico, how it is this one, should be the red fruits. So like the cherry, now obviously it doesn't come to me any word, but it's okay. And but what we have in this Chianti Classico, it is a Sangiovese, but with a touch of Merlot. Mm-hmm. This helped us to round a little bit the wine, because in the Chianti Classico, we age only for 1 year. So in our Chianti Classico, that it's so high elevated, we need much more time for our Sangiovese to be ready. So in the Chianti Classico, where we age for only 1 year, we prefer to go with that 10% of Merlot to round a little bit the wine. And when we say age, it's age in the big barrel. Before it was in the video, a view of me walking through the cellar. And exactly, these are the big barrels where our Chianti Classico is aged.
Amazing. These are beautiful. How old are these barrels, Federica?
These barrels, there are some of them about 2 or 3 years that we have just changed. But basically, these barrels can be used for a long time, because we clean inside. And after like 15, 20 years, if we need, we shave the wood to give back some flavor to the wine. You know, the small barrique, so the small type of wood are not, you are not able to shave and to clean very carefully. But the big barrels, you can actually, the worker can even get inside and shave all the wood and be ready. So they can have really long life, even 25 or 30 years.
Now with this Volpaia Chianti Classico, what is a food or a dish that you most like to have with it?
So unfortunately for the vegetarian, this Sangiovese pair very well with the meat. So most of the wines I will start thinking about before meat, like even a simple sandwich with some ham. Thinking for this Chianti Classico with a nice acidity, also a nice pizza. So it's a wine very easy to be drinking. But remember that Italians, and especially Tuscany people, they are not able to drink by themselves. They need to sit at the table. So we need the food with the wine. We need to pair, and it is the moment that you even enjoy more the wine, because it's making like a balance in the mouth.
I think I must be an honorary Tuscan, because I will not drink wine without food.
Perfect. You are in.
We have a question from we have a couple of questions here about the barrels. They're very large. Are they constructed inside the cellar, or do you have a space that's large enough to bring them in one piece?
So actually, the people that make the barrels, they build in their factory, and then they bring the barrels already built in your winery to guarantee you that you will not have any leak, and you can be safe on the shape of and on the put inside your wine. But actually, in Volpaia, because we have such incredible type of buildings, and so not all of them are so big to put inside the barrels, what we had to do is to rebuild. So they arrive one piece, then they to unbuild and then rebuild inside one of the building. So they made an incredible job. They are Italian producer. So proudly, I can say they have made this job to rebuild the barrel. But usually, otherwise, the barrel arrive already built in a winery.
Got it. All right, let's move on to the Castello di Volpaia Chianti Classico Riserva.
Yes.
And so this is also Chianti Classico, but tell us what's the difference between this one and the regular Chianti Classico?
So, when you add the word riserva, it means for us aged longer. So keep it, riserva, riservare, keep it in somewhere for somebody. So actually, when you have and you add the word riserva, it means aged longer. So in this case, in our riserva, we age for 24 months. In this picture, I want also to ask to the people that are listening to us today, that they are here sharing my story, if somebody wants to try to guess what does it mean Volpaia, because on this label you see the crest of Volpaia, so maybe somebody can guess what it means Volpaia. That somebody wants to try?
Anybody? Any guesses? Is the hint in the image of the label? Yeah. It
looks like
it looks like a fox maybe, or a cat, or something.
Exactly, it looks like a fox, because to say fox in Italian, you say Volpaia, so Volpe. Sorry, you say volpe. So Volpe, it means fox. When you add IAI, it means a lot in the place. So we can say it's the castle of the foxes. And if you're lucky, when you arrive in Volpaia, you see 30 people and one fox at least.
So the foxes are still very much active, and they're there, they're present.
Yes, they are not too shy actually sometimes.
They can be they're not always friendly, right?
Know that we can give them the food, so they know that
right,
they don't have to be too shy with us, with the people, usually with the tourists.
So how long does this riserva get aged in the wine?
So this riserva is aged for 24 months, so 2 years. And the rules of the Chianti Classico says that this wine has to stay at least a minimum 3 months in the bottle before release in the market. This is because remember that the bottle and the cork, it's a part of the aging. So not only the wood is the aging, it's also when it's in the bottle and when it's closed with the cork, it's important moment for the wine. Yep. So as much as possible, I love the magnum dimension of the bottle, because you have the perfect proportion between the cork and the dimension of the bottle. So if you have friends, try to have magnums. I love them.
Magnums. Okay. Well, then do you make the Riserva in a magnum?
Yes, we make in the magnum all of our lineup of the wines. Yes.
Wow, that's great. Well, I'll have to place an order for some magnums. So Federica, what are the tasting notes of this wine, and how is it different from the Chianti Classico regular, other than the aging?
So it's not only the aging, we have also the blend that is different. So in this wine, we have 100% of Sangiovese. So we prefer to go straight with Sangiovese, that we think is really the flavor, the type of the grape of the place, and gives the best expression. In this case, in this type of wine, it's much more like blackberry flavors, so like more riper fruits, so much darker fruit than the red fruits that we have much more in the Chianti Classico. And at the same time, the structure, the tannins that really are part of the Sangiovese are much more present in your mouth.
Got it. And does the aging smooth out the Sangiovese grape so that it has the more aging, it gets mellower and smoother?
It's getting smoother, but at the same time, we don't want to press too much with the wood. So we want to keep the flavor of the Sangiovese inside the bottle, inside obviously the glass. Because remember that this is the decanter. More than the normal decanter, the glass is the decanter. Yeah. So It's fantastic as much as possible to put the nose in different moments and to keep the wine in the glass, and you discover more and more about the wine.
Well, yeah, and maybe you use this expression too, but in the wine industry in the U.S., we use the expression "working in the glass."
Yes.
And that's very, very true. What's your favorite? Are there different foods that you would use for this? Is a more special Chianti Classico? What's your favorite dish with this one?
This one, I start to have a second course. So for sure, something much more cook, but not too much. Mm-hmm. So for this wine, has the one that we'll talk about later. I love the simple stack on the grill. So not too much sauce, but you have the fatness and at the same time the juicy that are going to be cleaned by the acidity and the tannins from the wine. So that one makes the perfect balance.
So there's a grilled, like a prime steak grilled.
Yes. But I don't want to be rude with vegetarian. So actually, if you have vegetables that are cooked with tomato, so have much more sauce inside, some olive oil, so some fatness, that you start to have the perfect balance with this type of food, of wine. Sorry.
I'll put the question to the audience, to the group. Any vegetarians watching today? Let us know in the chat. It's good to know. All right, so next up we have, yes, Maria. All right, Jan, okay. Well, we got you covered. When you come to Volpaia, we're gonna have a special plate for you guys. All right, so the next up, we're gonna talk about the Coltasala, which is also a Chianti Classico, but the difference is it's a single vineyard Coltasala and Chianti Classico. So tell us about this one, and what is the single vineyard all about, and how is this wine distinct from the other ones?
So unfortunately, the French are much more brighter than the Italians often. And so they keep for themselves the word cru. So we cannot use the word cru, actually, because also it is French, as we cannot use the word champagne for our sparkling wines. But actually, this is like a cru. So a wine that is coming from a single piece of land. So that piece of land is called Coltasala. So Coltasala, it is the name of the vineyard. So the vineyard gives the name to the wine. This wine, it's made by Sangiovese and 5% of a local grape called Mammolo.
Mammolo, okay.
Yes, not a lot of people knows about Mammolo. Mammolo, it's genetically same family of the Sangiovese, but in Italian, in Tuscany, to say violet, the flower, the little violet flower, you say mammola. So the classic flavor of this wine, it's the flower, obviously the cherry, the blueberry, the blackberry inside, but also the hint of the violet flower inside the wine. And this wine, it's not aged in the big barrel as the other two wines, but actually it's aged in the small barrique. The barrique are, I mean, big, I don't know, half of a person as a dimension. And here we use the barrique for maximum 3 years. And in this wine, we have 1/3 of new barrique, then the rest is second, third passage, sometimes even fourth. Mm-hmm. Again, to don't cover too much the flavor of the Sangiovese with the flavor of the wood. We want really to create a balance inside the wine. And at the same time, this wine, it's called a Gran Selezione, that in the Chianti Classico, we can identify like a pyramid where we have a bottom that is the Chianti Classico. Then you start a second step, the Riserva, and then on the top of the pyramid is the Gran Selezione. They usually, it's for most of the people, the best of their production. but at the same time is a much bigger wine. So also depends about your flavor. If you prefer lighter wine, I would suggest you definitely a Chianti Classico. If you prefer much structure in the wine, I would go with the Coltasala. So it's
is this one of your most popular wines, the Coltasala?
The production is much more smaller. So I would say the much more popular is the Chianti Classico Riserva.
Riserva. Yes,
it is the one that got in the top 100 several times, that one.
Okay.
Yes.
Note to selves, guys. It's the Riserva is the one that the Wine Spectator is over the moon about. But the Coltasala sounds amazing too. So
yes, it's and at the same time, I think it's very important to say that now talking about a Chianti Classico, everybody thinks about Sangiovese, but actually this one was a pioneer at that time when he was born. Was born in the 1981 when nobody was thinking about Sangiovese so proudly. So it was born as a lowest category of the Chianti of the wines, Vino da Tavola. It became IGT. Now is a Chianti Classico. It became it after Chianti Classico Riserva. Now is a Gran Selezione. It's still the same wine. It's only that finally everybody understood that the Sangiovese is the future of the Chianti Classico. So this one, because before you couldn't make a 95% of Sangiovese, you could make maximum 70% of Sangiovese. So it was one of the first one telling, oh, Sangiovese is the best.
That's super interesting to know. I mean, this is an education here in one session on wine from Tuscany and obviously Sangiovese and Chianti Classico. So now the fourth wine, I'm fascinated with this one. And inquiring minds want to know from you, Federica, as a resident, as a native of Tuscany, this is a super Tuscan. And we always hear about super Tuscans. But I've never heard from a person from Tuscany, what is a super Tuscan? What is the classic profile? And what is this wine? Because this, as you say, is a super Tuscan.
Yes, there is not, the nice part of the super Tuscan, there is not a classic and there is not a rule. Okay. So actually the nice part of the super Tuscan is a little bit of freedom finally for the winemaker. So no more following restricted rules and need to go to specific panel tasting to get the black roaster, to get this label. Not anymore. So in this case, our super Tuscan, we want to do something a bit bigger, a bit different. So in this case, we have a Sangiovese. It's still a single vineyard, has the Coltasala. The vineyard is called Balifico, and so is the Balifico the name of the wine. And it is Sangiovese with a 35% of Cabernet Sauvignon. So for sure, what you have in the glass, it's totally different in the color. You have much more intensity. So less on the ribbon, much more on the purple. The footprint of a Cabernet Sauvignon will make big difference inside the glass. So starting from the color, going in the nose, where we have much more intensity at the nose and then at the same time in the mouth. So these wines can be aged longer, especially the Riserva, the Gran Selezione, Coltasala. But this one, this little boy, because of the Cabernet Sauvignon, has really even longer life. You know, the Cabernet almost keep younger the wine. It's still aged in Cabernet in barrique as the Coltasala. So I would say with this wine to choose a food with even more sauce. So like a overcooked meat or like a stracotto, how do you say, like a wild boar, so a type of meat with a nice intensity in the flavors, and so at the same time a type of vegetables that are definitely not the raw vegetables, but cooked vegetables with some sauce on top to give the nice balance after in the mouth for the wine.
I would imagine that this one goes really nicely with a really big, rich pasta dish.
Yes, for sure. If you put some cheese on top, also give a much more richness, and so the acidity and the tannins will make the balance inside your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thrilled to hear about a Super Tuscan from a Tuscan. It's the first time I've had it explained to me properly by somebody who really knows. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sam.
And I think, you know, the Super Tuscans are very popular here in the US, I think in part because like a wine like this will have the Cabernet Sauvignon, and the Americans are very familiar with red wine from California, and some of the most popular wines there are Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's that big full-bodied red. You get the black fruits, you get, you know, a lot of structure, and it's going to go with a very substantial food with something that's got a lot of flavor. So and now this one, for anybody interested in getting it, I did not see it, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I did not see it on the Volpaia website, this one, the Super Tuscan.
If it was not, I need to make a correction right now.
Well, I might have missed it, but for anybody interested, you know, you can go to the website directly. Federica, how do people reach you if they want to order these wines? Do you have an email at the winery that somebody can reach out to?
I can write it down, my personal email. Okay, so I wrote in the chat, so everybody can reach me any moment by email. And you can go on the website, and I will definitely make a correction if the Barifico is not yet, because we just moved the vintage, so that probably is the reason why it's not online, because I forgot to do it, so it's my fault.
Well, I did not mean to cause a problem. I just wanted to mention it because I was very curious about this one because it's a Super Tuscan, and I think for me, like, I love the idea of having a meal where we start with like the Riserva, and then we move towards a main course that's a bigger, more flavor with the Super Tuscan. This seems to me a great transition. So yeah. Well, this has been just a total immersive experience in all things Volpaia and Tuscany. And I want to thank you for doing it. Federica and Marco, thank you for giving us a preview of the tour in April. For those of you who are curious, we will be in touch shortly. We haven't gone live with the tour on our website, but we will have it very soon, and in the next couple of weeks. And we'll begin taking expressions of interest and/or reservations, depending on what works for you best. It is a 6-night, 7-day tour. So it starts on a Saturday, and you arrive in Florence Sunday morning. It's an overnight flight from the US. And then it is, we do the full week in Tuscany. And then you depart Italy in the afternoon of the next Saturday. So it's exactly 1 week. And so we hope to see you guys for a virtual tasting soon. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And if anybody's interested in the Tuscany tour, I will put my email address in the chat as well. So if you get a chance, grab it. It's easy. It's sam@crushwinexp. And let me know if you're curious, and we'll send you information, and we'll get that page up very soon in the next week or so. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Marco and Federica.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Buonasera, and we will see you soon.
Buonasera, grazie a tutti.
Grazie a tutti.
Veramente, grazie Sam. Ciao Marco.
Bye bye.
Ciao a tutti.